Hello, and welcome to Life in the Driver's Seat Live. Today, we are going to be talking about the power of simply focusing on what is in your control. It's where all of your power lies. And I'm going to walk you through an exercise that you can apply to any area of your life, any situation, any area of your life that you want to improve and move forward in a powerful way. So my name is Jacqueline Emery. I'm a certified life coach and founder of a program and a podcast called Life in the Driver's Seat, which is all about empowering you to get into the driver's seat of your life so you can feel better and get more enjoyment out of your life and intentionally create the results in life that you really desire. Okay, so let's dive in. So like I said, we're going to talk about focusing on what is in our control and how simple and yet profoundly powerful that is in changing how you feel and how you experience your life and how you move forward and the results that you're able to create in your life. So the problem is so many of us are focusing on the things that are outside of our control. So I'm going to walk you through an exercise, but for now I want you to just picture in any area of your life, like there's two categories. So think on one side, there's all the things that you can't control. And on the other side, there's all of the things that are within your control. But most of us are focusing most of our time and our emotion and our energy over here on the things that are outside of our control. And we want our boss to be different and to recognize us. We want our partner to pay more attention to us. We want we want the economy to be better so that, our business can, and our investments can do better. We want our, kids to be different and make different choices. We think, if our parents raised us different, or even if we didn't get sick or our spouse didn't get sick, things would be different in our life. And when we do that, when we focus on that side of things and all of the things that are outside of our control, it makes us feel, sorry, I'm getting a tickle in my throat. I've been a little bit under the weather. So when we focus there on all the things that are outside of our control, it makes us feel hopeless and powerless. And like I said, it's we're wasting all of our time and energy and emotions on the wrong thing and feeling terrible in the process. And when we focus on what we can't control, like our partner and our boss, our kids, the economy, even circumstances like sickness, we feel frustrated and stuck and powerless, like I said, and we feel like there's nothing that we can do. But there is something that we can do. There is always something that you can do, okay? And that's what we're going to talk about today. We can train ourselves to focus on what is in our control. And I say train ourselves because the more we do, and what happens is when we do this over and over again, we begin to see and more readily identify all of the things that are in our control, in our life and in every circumstance and in every area. So when we instead choose to focus on what is in our control, we're able to move forward, okay? It enables us to take effective action, to feel better, to experience our life in a whole new way, and to improve any area of our life and that we're wanting to improve, okay? So focusing on what we can control, again, it's where all of your power lies. So the reason that I'm talking about this today, the reason I fell on this topic for episode number 1 is I was out with a couple friend of mine, two people, friends of mine who are a couple, and we were out to dinner and they started kind of venting and telling me some struggles that they've been having in their relationship, okay? And so I said, are you telling me this just to vent, or are you looking for my opinion on it? And they're like, no, we want your opinion on it. And I said, okay. So what they were telling me is he's saying that she's coming home from work and she's in a terrible mood and she's bringing all this stuff home from work and she's taking it out on him and he's getting really angry and frustrated because he doesn't deserve this. And she needs to be less emotional and learn to just shake things off and brush things off and not like take them so personally and bring them home and take them out on him. That was like what he's really like upset about and complaining about. And so I said, well, this sounds just like something I've been working on with one of my clients. And it's funny because one of my clients just told me, she said, this topic, like this exercise I'm going to walk you guys through today, she said this is one of the things from our coaching that she uses the most. She's like, I use it all the time. I always go back to that session and I remember what you told me to do and I use this exercise. So I said to them, like, I'm just going to tell you, something I've worked on with my client. And what it sounds like is what you are focusing on is what's outside of your control. Like you want her to be different. You want her to be less emotional. You want her to just be able to shake things off and not take things personally, right? Like you want her to show up you want her to be different. And it's making you feel very frustrated. And that's rightfully so, right? Like he's frustrated. But when we focus there and we want to control someone else and make them different, right? It's like it leaves us powerless. So I said to him, okay, well, let's talk about like what is in your control, because forcing her to be like less emotional or wanting her to be less emotional that's out of your control. So we started talking and he said, well, I end up saying like mean things. Like I get angry and I say mean things to her. And she's like, yeah, he says like mean things. I said, okay, well, let's start there. Like that's something that is within your control. I said, how about like the thoughts that you think about her? Right? The thoughts that you're thinking right now, the thoughts you think when she comes home, like those are within your control. Like you could just as easily like think to yourself, wow, I'm bummed that she had such a bad day at work. I'm sad that, she's going through all this. I'm sad she's feeling stressed. Like you could think those thoughts instead of feeling like it's unfair. She's taking this stuff out of me. She's so sensitive. She shouldn't take things personally and I don't deserve this, right? Like you could control your thoughts, and through that, it's like you can control how you feel. Right? You can control how you feel during that situation. You can control the actions you take. You can control the words that you say. You're saying mean things to her. You can control what you say. You could control whether you stick around in the house, right? You could control, like you could go for a drive. You could be like, I'm going to let you cool off. I'm going to go out with my friends for a little bit. I'm going to go in the room and watch some TV. Like you could control that. You could even control whether you stay with this person in the relationship. And don't get me wrong, I'm in no way saying that they shouldn't stay in a relationship. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I am saying is the difference between focusing on what's in our control and what's out of our control. So what's in our control, it's so much more powerful and empowering to say, I choose to stay with this person even when they come home from work and they're taking it out of me and they treat me like shit because they're having a bad day and they're feeling emotional. Like I choose to stay with this person rather than like just melting and saying like, I'm stuck in this relationship and this person won't change and they're taking these things out of me and it's like hopeless and I can't, they won't change for me and I'm stuck. It's like, no, it's so much more empowering to say, I'm choosing to stay with this. This is within my control. No one's forcing me to stay. I choose to stay in this relationship and to love this person, even when they take things out on me, even when they come home in a bad mood. So we got to talking about like, what is within our control. And here's the magic thing. So like of all of the things that are in his control, like what he's focused on, right? Changing the way she feels and acts, those are completely out of his control and making him feel like angry and frustrated and miserable. And here's like the magic part of all of this. The magic part is when we focus on what we can control, everything else changes. Okay, like when we focus on what we can control, which is ourselves, and like I said, are the thoughts that we think, the way that we feel, the way that we take action, the way that we show up, right? The results that we create. When we focus on what we can control, everything else changes. Okay, but we're using so much of our time and emotion and like energy trying to change other things around us, like people and circumstances and all these things that are out of our control, when we could be using that energy to focus on what is in our control. And the magic part is that's when we get the change that we're seeking. Okay. So then all of a sudden you start focusing on what he starts focusing on what he can change. He feels better, which then probably creates the result and the relationship that he's wanting, that he's trying to control her in order to get, right? So like just comment below if you can relate to this, right? Like just trying to control things outside of yourself, or like people outside of yourself, wishing that things were different and people were different in order to change the situation, right? Like when all of our power lies in us and not controlling those things, but in controlling everything that's within our control, and that will change. That brings about the change that we're really wanting. Like that is where our power is. That's where our power lies. So another quick example I want to give you in a story that came to my mind before I walk you through just a simple exercise that you can do on any area of your life. I think of like what a beautiful example like my dad is of what I'm talking about right now. So for those of you who don't know me and don't know like my story, I had a brother who passed away from ALS, and he battled ALS for 8 years. And throughout that time, I watched my dad like sleep on the couch next to his wheelchair. I'm talking about for years. My dad gave up like years of his life to literally like be with my brother as he was like ripped away from us in the most horrific, like slow, torturous way. I don't know if you know anything about ALS. I won't go a lot into it, but I mean, it robs you of like everything. You can't talk, you can't walk. He couldn't even eat. Like he couldn't move. He had to communicate just through a computer with his eyes. He could do nothing. And I remember like when we would just, throughout this horrific situation, like we would get so down, right? Like, how could this be happening? Like, this is a nightmare. And I remember like my dad always saying, like, I'll never forget this because he would say it all the time. When in the morning, he would say, I know this is a horrible situation, but how can we make today a good day? And I will always remember that and watching him through that and like hearing him say that over and over. Like he would say that to me, he'd say that to my brother, he would say that to all of us. He would say, I know this is a horrible situation, but how can we make today a good day? And what he's saying is exactly what I'm talking about right now. ALS, like him getting ALS, like the sickness and him, the way it was happening, it's like that, all of that was out of our control. But what was in our control is what he wanted to focus on. Like that's out of our control. There's nothing that we can do about it. But what can we do today to make it a good day, to make it the best day that it can be? How can we think? How can we act? How can we show up in this situation and make it the best that it can be? And he's just such a beautiful example of what I'm talking about right now, about focusing on what is in our control, right? Because there's always going to be things and situations and people like that. These things are out of our control. But like I said in the beginning of this video, there is always something that we can do. We might feel hopeless and powerless in a situation or area of our life, but there is always something that we can do when we choose to focus on what is in our control. But too many of us are focused on what we can't control. We're focused on this over here, all of the things that we can't control, the job, the people, the economy, our partner, all of these things over here, when like over here, there's a whole list of things that are in our control. And that's where our power is, to show up and change the trajectory of our life and all of the areas in our life. So now I just want to walk you through a simple exercise that you can do. And you can do this on any area and any situation, anything small to big, okay? And it's so powerful. And again, my client said like this is one of her favorite things that I taught her and that she said she uses the most. So what I want you to do is, again, you can think of as any situation comes up or any area of your life, but I want you to think of an area in your life that you want to be better. Like you wish it was better, you want to improve it, and maybe you feel like it's out of your hands, right? It's like your, like I said, your job or your partner or your kids or, your health or anything that's like, feels like it's out of your control. And I want you to take out a piece of paper. And on one side, I want you to put a line down the middle of the paper. And on one side, I want you to write at the top, things I can't control. Okay. And then, write those down. And then on the other side of that paper, I want you to to title it Things I Can Control. And I want you to make a list of all of the things that you can control. And what you're going to find is on one side, you're going to have like one thing, okay? Or like a few things, this circumstance or this person or whatever. And on the other side of that paper, you are going to find all of the things that are in your control. And what this becomes is your starting point. Like this is your to-do list. This is where you start. You work on all of the things that are, you spend all of that time and energy and emotion over here on this side, and all of the things that you can control. And then I want you to watch how this moves you forward, how this changes the results that you're able to create, how everything around you changes when you show up and control what you can control, right? There's the other side that leaves us powerless and stuck. And there's this side where we focus on this to-do list of all the things that are in our control. And I promise you, you will see shifts. You will see your life change. You will see yourself change. You will see how you feel and how you experience your life change, and the results that you're able to create change, because you are focusing on you. You are focusing on all of the things that you can do. And that is where your power is. And this is the deep work that I do with my clients inside of my program, Life in the Driver's Seat. Life in the Driver's Seat is all about teaching you to be intentional with how you think, the thoughts that you think, intentional with the way you feel. People think that how they feel, it just happens to them. It does not. You have power over that. Again, it's empowering you to get into the driver's seat of your life and be intentional about that, about how you think, about how you feel, and about the results in your life that you create. What do you want in your life? Like, what areas do you want to better? Be intentional about that. So if you are ready to take this work deeper and feel better and get more enjoyment out of your life and all of the things that in all of the areas that we just talked about, I want to invite you to a free breakthrough call. It's an hour call, free to you. You will get so much value out of it. And you can book your free call at JacquelineEmery.com/consult. And I would love to connect with you. And that is what I have for you guys today. I hope that was meaningful to you, and I hope it helps you move forward in a powerful way. And I will see you guys next Tuesday right here live at 12 o'clock, where we are going to talk about battery drainers versus battery chargers and how you can keep your battery drained to really experience the best life possible for you. Okay, I love you guys, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.